Good, all right, so let's call the TIF committee meeting for June 24th to order. First order of business is discuss action on the June 3rd, 25 minutes.
I make a motion to pass the minutes as written.
I second.
Great, motion and second, any discussion on the matter? All those in favor? So carried. Continue business, Mint Studio LLC. So you guys were here last time and then we requested, I wasn't here, but we requested additional information. Looks like that's all been provided.
At the last meeting, they weren't either, so they weren't able to ask questions to get
Okay,
clarification.
gotcha.
So I emailed those guys and said, look, this is kind of what they were looking for.
Yep.
So they sent over the information and then I want to make sure they were here tonight to take any questions.
Okay. So do we have any questions?
I did. Who's doing the work?
I will be doing most of it.
They're doing most of it?
That's what I said.
Okay. So.
As much as you can.
So the labor costs are on estimate.
Yeah. My understanding is there were some issues with that last time, but
So,
I feel like that was, in my mind, pretty clear that if we were performing our own labor.
so that was actually my question I wanted to bring up tonight is if we could, how we addendum. I was gonna look, but now that it's in this one, the rules that we addendum and sent to the board that they wanted, are we always allowed to add to those? Are we always allowed to amend the application? So I was actually gonna ask about adding that we can't use the grant to pay for your own labor. Like more detailed, of course, but that was something that I wanted to bring up.
Well, that was what I always understood.
But we let Nickerson do it last week, so.
Pardon?
But we let Nickerson do it last week. Cause there isn't a rule in the application that they can.
It's like we'll get fill that out, right? Wasn't that the final? No, they kept
I
it.
don't think we ever really brought it
Yeah,
up.
that application was. They pulled out the signs that were paid for, right, by a third party,
Gotcha.
and then the select board moved everything.
We everybody all brought up the labor, but then kind of moved on from it. So
Right.
I didn't know if that's something we wanted to discuss and put in going forward, and now it's brought up again, so.
Yeah, that's, I mean, they're doing the labor because that's kind of work there.
They have all the
Their
equipment to do the
businesses.
labor, and if you have to hire it out, labor and the equipment, then I understand that, but if you have all of that stuff in your own possession. Then I don't think that should be part of. The bill. Or the request. That's just my thought.
And I think if we all agree on that, then that'd be something that we have to add to the.
Are you intending to amend your rules right now for this application, or you were in the process of this application and then make recommendations?
Or I think it's hard.
So I guess so when they originally put this request in, my understanding was we've since amended twice. In lieu of this application, right? So they put in, we got the do not fund from the select board. Until we came back with our.
That's correct.
And so they're already getting, we amended to a lower amount.
And they amended their application to the same, yep, they pulled the project because
Right.
of the lack of funding. Yep.
So
I think it might be something going forward, I was gonna bring it up after, but I didn't realize that they were there on the board either.
yeah, I just. My understanding was always that it wasn't included. I know Amy pulled it out of hers. I know we didn't include it in ours. I think there's a pretty good standing for that, but since these people have already been punished once,
Yeah,
I struggle with like if we can, like last meeting, we literally approved this labor, so like kind of feel like.
that's why, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. I'm fine with moving forward with this one and in other business saying that we need to have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's only fair.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the Mint Studio office? Okay, do we have a motion? So it looks like the total amount will be 25,600,
Which is six.
About 500.
but we would, right, yep. So we're looking for a motion of up to 12,500.
I make a motion to approve for 12,500.
And I'll second it.
Great. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry it took so long.
More details. we appreciate it.
Appreciate all you're doing. Yeah, yeah.
The doctor that did that.
Yeah, good luck.
Right.
That was what we wanted, there wasn't any of that before.
Yes, you got it. Yep. Other business.
So yeah, I wanted to bring up that we put it in writing that, if the labor is drawn out by somebody else other than who's looking for the funding, then they can include it in their application, but if they're doing their own work, business, personal, then we're not gonna, so like, I feel like it's just kind of ends up being a write-off. I don't own my own business at least, but I feel like that's kind of what I'm about.
I feel the same way. I feel like if you've got the equipment and the knowledge and the ability to do it yourself. Maybe you've got to rent some equipment, maybe you need to rent a lift or something, I understand that, but I think, you know, it should be itemized on the line that you've got to get a lift and this is how much it's gonna be. And who's doing the, you know, to install the new sign out front, not just using theirs as an example.
Yep.
Same thing with the chimney repair, fix and leak, so you have somebody coming to do that. It just needs to be broken down, and I don't think we should be paying for this. For your shop, right?
Completely, I agree. How do we do the equipment piece? I guess that's.
I guess
think a little
if
bit
they
harder.
need, that needs to be a question, and. Since I wasn't here last time, the same thing, like, I know, you know, you gotta get up on the roof somehow, are you renting a lift?
Right.
Let's see the estimate for the lift, if you have to rent equipment, let's see the estimate for the rent of the equipment that you've got to use.
So maybe we put it as though we need written estimates for labor and equipment if they're going to be considered for approval. And they can't be from self, is that?
But, I mean, if you own the equipment, you shouldn't be getting rental on it if you're looking more. I think this.
So what if you own all the equipment, but then you say, well, we're not gonna match the brand from the equipment. I think we'll rent the equipment.
One more time?
You own.
I'm gonna ask, yep,
You could build a tractor to a project.
Yeah.
We're not gonna pay because you own it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I'm gonna go rent.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna pay me for half of my rent.
right,
Or do you just prohibit the individual from? I wrote down labor unrelated third party. I think you're intent on a draft language and said it for a social meeting, but I don't think. Committee thinks to pay a related third party, whether it's your probably.
Oh,
Right.
correct. Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I think.
I mean, I use it for instance, sorry, but say. Man, her son, right, wanted something done for her driveway.
yeah,
And her husband owns the equipment and whatnot, is it appropriate to pay it to do the work, and I think that. Doesn't pass straight face test in a lot of people's eyes.
Right.
Well, and I think we gave two good examples last week, is like when. Harry did the Quimby Center, Matt did the work, but they didn't charge us any labor. So a good example last week was Nickerson's.
And equipment.
What are your thoughts on equipment?
that's hard.
Do we prohibit the individual from doing the work themselves, and if they do, then you can't bill yourself back on it?
there, yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
Equipment or labor or anything.
Right there.
Yeah,
If they do it, if they wanna do it themselves, they can, but we're
No,
not.
yeah, that's what I was trying to say, and you summed it up pretty good.
yeah.
You know, that's very efficient in the use of the money.
Exactly.
You're able to do it. But there's also the component that this is economic development, and by you hiring another business to do the same work is also a benefit.
Mhm.
So maybe not the most efficient, but still a reasonable use of funds. Okay,
And, I mean, that kind of gives money for personal gain if you filled out labor for yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
What do you do with it? It's your story.
so can I get a motion on that sentiment, if we will?
I make a motion that we,
On
on
that
that
sentiment.
sentiment.
I second.
Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those opposed, or all those in favor? Oh,
My other question, I know before we approved Nickerson's, we were well over the 50% that we had talked about. So now we've approved 2 larger ones, so are we needing to think about, like, application wise, are we needing to start thinking about, like, still accepting them for how long, like, how does that work in you guys? I wanna make sure I understand.
So it's guidelines, obviously, the intention is to follow them, but. Given the timing of the guidelines, it doesn't work this year. You look at the history of the TIF fund and you have used the 25% or whatnot of it. I kind of thought about that after the last meeting, before the last meeting.
Yeah.
even.
I
There's
don't
a
wanna,
part of me that says. You continue to take applications, but maybe you expand a window for application. And do it quarterly, or you do it every 6 months.
okay,
And then you have the pool, because. And no disrespect to any applicants now, in the past. People come in and they want the work done tomorrow. Well, is that really how your business is gonna operate? Get it, but, you know, if you take applications every 6 months, you'll have competition on the table.
right, cause my thought is like at this point, like, are we gonna get to the point this year where we literally use all the money because we're just continuing to,
Well, you're not gonna deplete the TIF,
right,
but obviously the program guidelines are out of the water.
right. And at some point, like, it's great approving all of them so far, but we're gonna have to get more
We
selective.
did the rolling in applications, we didn't have applications, and now you're doing. Different size applications,
Right.
different purposes, different locations, like tonight. You missed it, you know, the discussion was that this is a prime property downtown to the current residential.
Right.
And as you move along and you might get more competitive applications to the table at the same time. I think that. Your information is gonna be out, we're not giving it. We don't want that one, that 12,500, we want it back to 25. Buildings like what they're working on.
Mhm.
On Main Street. What you wanna promote as much as you can,
Exactly.
making that building look.
Right.
But we cut everything back. Because. Of the money amounts and the way that they're hearing. So I get the want to be responsive and have a quick turnaround time. But there's really no other grant that works that way.
Well, and these people paid people already at least, like. and-
They were,
Yeah,
they were very big exception.
Yeah.
But, I mean, your last applicant had already purchased signage beforehand, things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
so maybe we make the motion that we review applications quarterly
I think quarterly is.
to address
good
more,
idea.
yeah, I feel like 6 months is a little much, but quarterly might be better. How does everyone else feel about that?
Makes sense. But to me,
do we want other people in the room before we make the decision, or we could?
I mean, there's probably a bunch of people online that are watching it, and the select board was not meeting until July. And they would review it, because we would incorporate it for the program guidelines.
I guess I'd like to see John weigh in on it before, but if we're feeling strongly, we can put it, you know, that's
We
fine.
can recommend, why don't we, if,
Put that on for new business next month.
yeah, I mean, if you want to meet in July, I guess. But if we don't have anything, we're gonna meet just for that.
No, no.
if we wanna put it to a motion now, we can certainly do that, that's fine, I just,
Why don't we, if it's okay, put it to a motion and a vote, and we'll get the other members to weigh in when we
sure,
send out the amended guidelines for your review for the select board's not meeting for another review. So that'll allow some feedback if we want to do anything electronically, we can do that. It's a
Okay.
recommendation.
I make a motion that we change rolling applications to quarterly review of applications.
I'll second.
any discussion? All those in favor,
That wouldn't be.
that's everyone.
What night is the park?
Who's this first? Do you want to switch your regular meeting for July and August?
Can we do it early? What, can we, do we wanna hit another night? Keep it a little bit in the park.
It would be easier for me to get another night,
Okay,
but it's up to you.
I don't.
So the next regular meeting is scheduled for July 22nd. So Monday the 21st, Wednesday the 23rd, I can do it.
I can do Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, I was moving it so they could see Richard on
You
TV.
got something Wednesday?
What'd you say, July 22nd?
Would be July 23rd.
23rd.
So 5.
If that works for
Yeah,
you.
that would be, yeah.
And we can review August with that.
Can look at August
meeting.
then, okay.
So,
But
John,
we meet in July, we just amended, so we're only getting these things quarterly.
we could get an application between them and then I think that's why we're setting it, if we don't get one, then, right? Cause we are waiting.
In the perfect world, we're not gonna meet July.
Yeah.
Right, but if we need to, then I've got it on the calendar.
Okay.
Easy to pull it off and it is starting.
Okay.
And then. Now now the other John's not here, so I'm just bringing it up so that it keeps getting on there that we still have to re-elect. Officers, and we didn't do it because you weren't here last time, and now
Oh,
he's not here.
okay,
What do you think, VNC? There's nothing.
why do we have to reelect that? Because of,
You don't have to, everything.
is what?
We reappointed at least one person.
Oh, okay,
April.
sounds good,
Mhm.
sounds good, okay.
Do you want to take it up under other business or do you want to schedule it on the next meeting?
I would go for it next meeting, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. Jocelyn, anything else?
No, I think.
I'm at the bottom of my paper.
I'm sorry that we're being productive.
Okay.
So it seemed like in the last select board meeting, there was some confusion on the district that we. I guess what I took away, if we're still in the downtown district, that came up, the labor piece definitely came up. And then I don't think it was made aware that we have other projects, mainly the county $100,000 revolving.
Right.
And I guess just feel like we should try to inform the select board, but also just the public, and I think those meetings are pretty well attended.
No, I agree, I watched it.
Facebook.
My only question is though, with the first thing that you said, the area, I thought we have a clear map now though.
So I thought last time we did away with the map and said any business in,
Been that way for a good while.
right,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
so we brought the map back out, but then we said, no. We don't wanna do that.
Right. I think that the map was what really was supposed to guide your investment, but when you don't have a competitive application process.
Right,
Then the map's really kind of worthless, because you've got a business owner that says, well, I'd like to invest.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really care where you are, because we want to be able to invest in the business.
right,
And that's what got us here.
right. And then there was also confusion on the residential piece, and we talked about that, I think 2 meetings ago.
Yeah, so the residential piece, that's now been set, it's gonna be 5 units.
5 units. Okay,
And it won't touch any other piece.
Okay.
The TIF committee had discussed 2 meetings ago, proposing a residential facade program. John didn't develop the guidelines, he was gonna do that.
Okay.
Says he's still going to do it, he's just been busy,
I just don't have all.
but the select board was largely cold on the idea of paying residents.
Okay.
In residential properties to do anything.
Yep.
I didn't even call the state to find out if that was permitted.
okay,
That's what I did. I talked to Tina Collins, I think her name was, and she said, no way, you cannot.
Okay.
It's not part of the deal.
Sounds good.
So,
Great.
And then, when does that funding reset? What's that?
Well, the program is run off it's calendar year based upon previous year's receipts. So
Calendar year. Okay.
come August, we'll know what this year's is gonna be for next, right?
But we anticipate that number to reduce.
I believe so.
Any other business? All right, we'll adjourn. Thanks, guys.